This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. A review of Royal Caribbean's Anthem of the Seas this week, but first, covering a lot of cruise news, staff writer Richard Sims. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug. Fancy meeting you here.
Yeah, we're kicking things off with what has to be the most unexpected news of the week.
Yeah, I did not see this one coming, but it looks as if Mexico has put the kibosh on Royal Caribbean's plans to open a second version of Perfect Day on that country's west coast. So ever since Royal announced plans for Perfect Day Mexico, there have been protests about, various aspects, mostly involving the environmental impact. There were two main concerns raised, one regarding some protected mangrove forests and the other involving the reefs and how dredging and doing the various things you have to do to open a spot like this would harm them. Honestly, these kind of complaints are raised nearly every time a cruise line tries to create or expand a private destination or do dredging. We saw this when they were trying to open a second port down in Miami. So it's not at all unusual to see these kind of things happen. But this time, the efforts to block the project proved successful. I thought Royal Caribbean might fight the decision, but instead they seemed to recognize it would be futile. They made a big deal about saying they respected the decision and would work with Mexico to try and find some other job creation routes. But yeah, just like that, this project, which they poured a lot of money into, is dead in the water, pun intended.
Next up, we have the results of a court case involving those two women from Carnival Spirit we talked about last week.
Yeah, we told you last week that these two women were in line at the guest services desk aboard Carnival Spirit. One, I find it hard not to mock this whole thing, but one very helpfully pointed out that the other was in the special line meant for the diamond and platinum level VIFP guests, and that she definitely shouldn't be. And it started with apparently the one woman kept touching the other. It eventually escalated to the point where they were slapping and other people had to get involved and there was kicking. Anyway, because this happened in international waters, they were both facing assault charges. When last we spoke, we did not know what the outcome of this would be. We were left with a genuine little cliffhanger. Well, now we know. Turns out that when they went to see the judge, they were both very apologetic. They hated that they were there. They regretted the whole thing. The judge said that if they could go 3 months without getting arrested or having contact with one another, the charges would be dropped and the whole thing would basically go away. Now, there is one other aspect to this story. So after it all went down, Carnival, as it often does in situations like this, issued a lifetime ban for both of them. And now both have expressed hope that Carnival might change their mind, I guess because they're apologetic, and reverse that lifetime ban. But good luck with that. We hear a lot about the bans happening, but I don't ever recall hearing about one being lifted. Do you?
No, in fact, one of my doctors, his son got banned maybe over 10 years ago now. And they still try to fight it. Carnival still keeping their foot on the brake saying, no, you were banned over a decade ago. You're not coming back on the ship.
Wow. Okay. As soon as we are done recording, I'm going to want to hear what they did to get banned.
I mean, it was something silly that teenagers do, but nothing like really bad or anything. But it was in Carnival's eyes back in 2015, I guess. And by the way, did you read the full FBI report I sent you on that story? Because I was reading it. Man, not a lot shaken at Mobile, I guess, because that was a very detailed report.
It was so detailed. I mean, it literally got into like she touched her shoulder and then she turned around. And I mean, I was just waiting for somebody to say she flipped her hair. It was really detailed.
So that hantavirus ship, basically all those guests were disembarked. The ship is now over in Rotterdam for deep cleaning. But what about the passengers?
Well, there's some drama there. I mean, a lot of it has to do with quarantining because at this point, That's where all the questions are. People are off the ship. Most have been flown to their home countries, via various means. But the questions linger as far as how long they need to be quarantined and where those quarantines should be. This week, two passengers claimed that they were completely blindsided by news that they would have to remain in a Nebraska quarantine center for the next little bit. One who spoke to CNN but didn't want to be identified for fear that his family might be harassed, said that he was initially told he can quarantine in a guest cottage on the property of his parents, but is now being told he has to stay in the Nebraska facility. There is a special quarantining facility in Nebraska where a lot of people have been taken. It's kind of interesting because, in my mind, it involves trust. Just because someone says they will remain in quarantine doesn't mean they necessarily will. When you have a facility that you're monitoring them, they have to. But we saw it during COVID when people who were, ill and were supposed to be quarantining, they'd be like, well, I'm just going to go out to dinner or I'm just going to, run to the grocery, whatever. You want to trust people, but when you're dealing with an issue of national health and potential outbreaks, can you do that? There are 18 people currently being held at the National Quarantine Facility in Nebraska. And right now they're being told that they may need to stay there until at least May 31st, which isn't really all that long, honestly. But this is changing as the story changes, as the conditions change. This week, I think 3 different people in Spain who were on the ship tested positive for hantavirus. So clearly, the incubation period is long and they want to make sure these people stay in a position where they can't necessarily pass it on. Remember, normally this wouldn't be a huge issue because most varieties of hantavirus can't be passed human to human. This, unfortunately, is the Andes variety, which is the one variant which actually can be passed human to human. So clearly they want to really be careful and make sure not to trigger some kind of, much bigger event.
And this next story is bizarre. An unexplained incident aboard one of the world's newest cruise ships sent several passengers to the infirmary on board.
Yeah, I guess someone needed to do a little more kicking of the tires before they said, okay, let's send Norwegian Luna out there. This is the newest ship. It just started sailing a couple weeks ago. And on May 14th, guests were dining at the Local. If you've never been on a Norwegian ship, the Local is basically their 24-hour spot. It shows sporting events. It has amazing chicken wings. It's very, very, very popular. And it's always crowded every time of day. So no matter when this happened, there would have been somebody there. Anyway, there were people dining there when all of a sudden several ceiling tiles came down on them. Norwegian hasn't said what caused the tiles to fall, only acknowledging that they temporarily closed the venue to make repairs and, check it out and find out what happened. And that several guests, and even there they were a little vague and didn't say exactly how many, were treated for minor injuries. But yeah, not the kind of thing you expect to see happening on a brand new cruise ship.
As much as it is kind of annoying with everyone filming everything these days, it is good in a sense because the cruise lines are forced to give us statements because now I could say, hey, a listener sent this video in, they're on board Norwegian Luna, and this is happening, or a possible man overboard with this happening, and the cruise lines are forced to give you a statement now where they didn't have to 10 years ago.
100%. It leads to accountability. I think the thing that bothers me is, when you have something like, say, somebody being airlifted off of a ship and everyone's first instinct is to record it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is somebody whose life is at stake. But in the story we just talked about with the ceiling tiles and the one we're about to talk about, in both those cases, they were not, necessarily big things. They were not necessarily life-threatening things, but we probably wouldn't have known about them. It's not as if Norwegian was going to just randomly send something out saying, oh, by the way, some ceiling tiles fell and a couple of people were injured. They would not have released that had it not been made public by someone with a video camera.
Yeah, and a day after that happened on board Norwegian Luna, another cruise ship, I guess we can say, sprung a leak.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of water features, but not necessarily if it means having, that water cascading down inside a ship. I much prefer it like, in a fountain. That's what happened though on the Enchanted Princess, thanks to a burst pipe. Now, just like if this was going to happen in your home, that meant the deck below it was flooded. I don't know about you, but when I heard this story, the first thing I thought, and it's the same thing I'd be thinking if I was on the ship. Some people were like, "Oh my God, would you think the ship is sinking?" No, I wouldn't think that at all. I would be thinking, "Please, God, don't let it be sewage. Please don't let it be sewage." As it turns out, this wasn't that. Thank goodness. Instead, it was a pipe leading to the pool. Pipes burst on occasion. We see it every now and then on various ships. The water wound up flooding parts of deck 6, including Crooners, one of the most popular, bars on the ship. Fortunately, it turns out that when this happened, the ship was in port in Santorini. In fact, a lot of the videos that surfaced were people who were standing in line, as you do to disembark, and they were walking past this suddenly obvious water feature that had not existed before. So, because the ship was in Santorini, that meant that the crew had basically all day to clean things up. And we saw a lot of people online commenting on just how well Princess handled this, how quick the crew was to react. What a great job they did of not only apparently they were using water trash cans and things to scoop up the water. They of course had all those big noisy blowers out, but within 36 hours it was basically all dry and good. So kudos to the crew for handling that so well.
Yeah, and I talked to someone on board. It was it was a swimming pool water return line that busted on deck 6. And the only really thing that happened, aside from getting having to fix the pipe and also the flooding, was Crooners was closed down for restoration for about 6 hours, but everything was operating as normal by that evening. And closing out with a little bit of news from Carnival Cruise Line.
Yeah, Carnival has for years called itself America's Cruise Line. And as we were getting ready to record, we just found this out. But they're leaning heavily into that sort of America's Cruise Line motto with a new bow crest. It was introduced this week when Carnival Legend came out of dry dock, and it sported the new look. So this is on the front of the ship. So if you were standing in front of it, you would see it heading right for you. It features the instantly recognizable whale tail that Carnival is very well known for, and it's surrounded by the words "From Sea to Shining Sea." Carnival Magic will be the next ship to get the new look during her upcoming dry dock. It's worth noting that this is not coming to every ship because 2 will be exempt. Both Carnival Jubilee and the upcoming Carnival Tropical, both of which sail out of Texas, will continue to sport the Texas star on their bow. You'll remember when Carnival Jubilee was rolled out, it had the Texas star on the front because they were sending this ship to to Texas, and that's where it was going to be home ported. Same thing will be true of Jubilee. I've said this before about Norwegian used to do ships that had artwork that was very specific to the home port it was being introduced in. For example, Carnival Breakaway, when it was rolled out, all over the ship, including the artwork on the hull, was devoted to New York City. But I find that a little odd because if you want to move the ship, and ships inevitably move, I mean, I guess you can say it's still a tribute to that place, but it doesn't make as much sense as it did when it was first introduced. So Carnival's kind of smart here. They've got the 2 ships that have the Texas, bow crest, but to put this more generic From Sea to Shining Sea on all their ships is really kind of smart because it means no matter where the ship goes, it's still relevant.
There you go. All right, we'll close it with that. Staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thank you, my friend.
As always, thanks for having me.
You're listening to Cruise Radio, America's trusted voice of the cruise industry.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer, if you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
Last month, Michael took a cruise over to Southeast Alaska out of Seattle on Royal Caribbean's Anthem of the Seas. He joins us on the line to talk all about it. Welcome back, my friend.
Hello, Doug. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Good to hear your voice. And I'm excited to talk about Anthem of the Seas here, a Southeast Alaska cruise. So you're in Wichita, Kansas. We'll take a step back here before we get to the ship. Give me some pre-cruise thoughts. What made you want to jump on this 7-nighter up to Southeast Alaska out of Seattle?
Yeah, post the pandemic or in the pandemic when we first started really cruising, I think I had always put this on my bucket list. Like, hey, I wanted to do an Alaska cruise. And I want to say it was around late 2023 when we actually decided to book it. And we just went ahead and pulled the plug in late 2023 and booked it for 25. And luckily enough, I think I got about $1,000 knocked off of it because it was a refundable deposit. My nice. Travel agent got about $1,000 knocked off during the time that it took me to pay off this cruise. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, since you booked it, we'll call it, 14, 18 months in advance here. Did you notice the price shift at all as you got closer to the sailing?
Yeah, by the time I went back and looked at it again, it was far more expensive than what it got lowered down to for me. Mm-hmm. But when I booked it in 2023, it was I think it was, like almost $4,000 plus. Sure. And then I noticed that the travel agent sent me 2 emails saying that the price had dropped and it was like $400 and $500. So wow. It was nearly $1,000 reduced.
You have a good travel agent there too.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, for sure. So you made your way from Kansas up to Seattle. Any pre-cruise time before the cruise?
Yeah, we actually did 2 days because I actually have a friend that lives out in that area, and my wife's cousin lives there. So we spent 2 days prior. So we flew into Seattle. It was we got there around 3 p.m. I believe, and we just ended up taking the light rail down to Westlake Station and walked to our hotel.
What hotel did you stay at?
We actually stayed at the Hotel Max, which was like a boutique hotel that's like built around rock and roll. So it's pretty cool.
Nice. Very cool. So it's time to board Anthem of the Seas. You get to the cruise terminal. How was the embarkation and how long did it take from the curb to the ship?
Curb to ship, I would give it roughly, it was maybe about 15 minutes, it really felt like. Because by the time you get through all the lines of the Uber drivers and taxis driving in, and you actually get out and hand the luggage over to the porters, because we actually had Celebrity Edge in the same day. Mm-hmm. So it'll be 2 types of porters out there, and they'll ask you what ship you're getting on, and if they're the correct porter, they'll take your luggage. From that time to when we got on the ship, I would say about 15 to 18 minutes. Okay, not bad at all. Now, so I know where like Carnival Corporation ships go out, which is way down there a little bit to the west. Where is the pier for like Royal Caribbean and everyone? Is that right downtown? No, it's I think it's called Pier 91, and it's the one that's over on like the north side of that bay or sound or whatever that is right there. Okay. I don't know if you've been there many times, but yeah, it's over on the northern, like if you start driving north of the downtown area, and it's just northwest of the downtown. Okay, gotcha. So you walk on board Anthem of the Seas. What were your impressions? This was our first time on a Quantum class ship, and both of us, me and my wife are both really impressed with it. It's just because we've been on Oasis class, Voyager class, and what we did notice is it just seems like the venues on those ships have a lot of room in them. It's not even Oasis class ships. It seems like music hall can get a little stuffy, and Boleros is bigger. It seems like on Quantum class, so we like that the venues are larger. And just the overall ship looked good. I mean, there's obviously wear and tear. It's been out for quite a while, but nothing that made it look bad. I think it's an excellent ship, and honestly, one of my favorite ships
Yeah, last time we spoke, I believe it was Harmony of the Seas, an Oasis class ship. So, like when you're walking on board from an Oasis class onto a Quantum class ship, what is the difference, or is the promenade and everything pretty much still the same, aside from the venues being a little, larger?
And I can't even remember like when they dumped us off. I can't remember if they let us walk. I think they let us walk along the promenade deck there, so we'd have to directly get inside into the Esplanade area, but what I do like about the Esplanade area, it looks a little less straight hall type vibe. It's got like curves to it, and you're actually, as you're moving back to the back of the ship, there's more of like I don't know how to explain it, but it's more less of a straight hallway looking type environment. It just looks like there's tricks around the corner, so it makes it more interesting than when you're in an Oasis class ship. You can just look completely down that promenade.
What kind of stateroom did you book on this 7-night cruise, and what did you think of it?
We actually had balcony room number 9292, and the reason I say that is because every time we went to dinner and they asked for our stateroom number, they said it was easy to remember. So it turns out to be a stateroom like right there on that bump out. So you do have like a pretty large balcony compared to a normal stateroom. So we obviously for an Alaska cruise, it really worked out for us. Another shout out to my travel agent for getting me that, because he just knows like, hey, this will be useful to you. And he booked it for me. So that was a real benefit of that.
I believe Anthem of the Seas came out in 2015. I think Quantum was like the year before that, or it could be flipped. But regardless, 10 or 11 years old. What did the stateroom, as far as like being modern with USB plugs and stuff, did it check all the boxes?
For me personally, yes. I don't need a whole lot of plugs everywhere. Like on the, let's say the left side of the bed closest to the balcony door, they did have I want to say a USB plug there, or a regular plug for power. But on the opposite side where my wife was sleeping, they didn't. But that wasn't a big issue for us because we carry a power bank. And then obviously they have the power solutions on the vanity there that we use normally too.
Okay. And the bathroom size on this one, it might sound funny even asking you this, but I've gotten a couple of comments in the past here. Compared to an Oasis class ship, is it about the same size bathroom?
I think it's more roomier, but I'm not sure. It just seemed like it. I don't know if it's because the toilets like maybe angled differently or something, but it definitely seemed like it was like a more spacious bathroom to me.
So you were on deck 9 then. What deck was the Windjammer Marketplace?
14 or 15. We didn't go very often, but yeah, I was right. I think it was 14, because if you walk out the rear elevator on 14, I think you can hear the music blaring from there.
Okay. So
from the Washington station.
Yeah, you mentioned you didn't really go there much, but the times you did go there, how was the food selection, and did it ever feel too crowded?
The times I went, I really do think it was always evening, like where they had one side closed off. I don't think we ever went there for lunch. I think we went twice for evening, and it wasn't bad at all. It was just, you walk in and I never stood in a line or anything. The selection of food was decent to me. I mean, I don't really have a complaint about it. And my wife thought it was okay. She's not a big buffet fan in general. Like I think she likes to sit down to eat. So we typically don't go. It's not like we don't like it. It's just that we like to sit down and have a dinner when we're on vacation like that. But other than that, when we were in a jam and we wanted to go and maybe make a show, we said, hey, let's just run to the Windjammer. Everything was fine. And they have like a Starbucks, not a Starbucks, but a coffee section up there where you can get Starbucks coffee. So it was fine.
Yeah, they also have a really good bakery up there with amazing cookies.
Yeah, it was a funny story. I don't know why, but as soon as this trip started, I was, craving chocolate chip cookies the whole time. And that became the big joke of the cruise, is that I wanted to find chocolate chip cookies instead, because I always had like coconut cookies or whatever. So, and sugar cookies. So like she even had a video of me like saying, oh, blah, 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 I want some coconut or chocolate chip cookies. She was making fun of me about it. But yeah, that bakery does have great cookies, along with the Cafe Esplanade or whatever they call it down there. I'm not sure if that's the same name.
Yeah, it's funny. We would go in there late at night and grab cookies, and then I would walk over to the coffee station and I would use the milk that was supposed to be for the creamer and pour it like into a glass for milk and cookies. And my girlfriend's like, that's not supposed to be for that. It's like, well, you got to improvise here. It's late at night. So
it's not a hack if you don't do it a different way.
Exactly. So the main dining room, what time dining did you have there, and how was that?
Usually my travel agent puts us with my time dining, which I'd never really oppose. I'm usually fine with it. But if I were to do regular time, I usually would go early. But this time, like I said, I didn't bother changing and kept it at my time. I think it might be my last time doing my time dining because what I do notice is even if you have a reservation, you still go down there and sort of wait yourself in line. And that to me is sort of pointless. So I might as well just go in and, go back to regular time dining and enjoy it that way. Because I don't know if you ever do my time, you'll say, hey, you make a reservation in your app, and then you go down there at the time that they tell you to go down there, and then you get in the line for people who have a reservation instead of the line for people who didn't make a reservation. And I'm just like, well, what's the point in that,
Yeah, all too well. How was the food quality and service once you got sat?
Food quality service was great. I even one night we had a window seat, and then another night I think we were close to a window. But either way, it was always like nothing like in a bad position or anything. We've always had a great seating position, and I don't know, the food was always good. I mean, we always really enjoyed it, so there's no issues in the MDR. And I think we ate breakfast there a couple of times and maybe one lunch.
Gotcha. Any specialty dining on this 7-nighter?
Yeah. We always usually do specialty on embarkation day because of the Windjammer's just a madhouse. So we did Jamie's that day. And funny enough, I got talked into a extra meal at Chops from, like how they walk around and sell you like specialty dining. And when he came to sell it to us, I was like, yeah, sure. What the heck? I'll have it on my birthday because my birthday was like 2 days later. Nice. So I said, yeah, I'll do it on my birthday. Let's have some specialty dining. So he gives me a ticket and he says, make sure you take this with you. And of course I didn't. And I'm pretty sure like they tried to look it up in the system, blah, blah, blah. But I think I got like the full charge for Chops, which is outrageous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like a little note to people is like, if they do sell you that and they tell you to take that ticket with you when you go to your reservation, make sure that you actually do take that ticket with you.
How was the quality of the meat at Chops?
I want to say I had like a sirloin or whatever, and it was fine. And at Jamie's, my wife had I think she did like chicken or something, and it was really, really, really good. I actually wanted what she had, and I had the vodka penne or whatever that one dish that they have, and I like it, but it wasn't like mind blowing like her chicken. So yeah, I would probably try that next time.
What about grab and goes around the ship, whether it be like by the pool or Sorrento's or any places like that?
It seemed great. It seemed like our go-to was the La Patisserie or whatever it's called in the Esplanade. And we were big time fans of Cafe 270 for like just quick grab and goes. That venue, you just walk in, get what you want and you're on your way. So we tend to just like eating there if we were just wanting something real quick. But yeah, other than that, I think we only ate pizza one time, if I'm not mistaken.
Entertainment on board, how did it stack up for the 7 nights?
The first show we actually watched was I want to say Spectre's Cabaret, which was like the first night on. And that was decent. It's in it's in the 270 venue, and it was okay. And no issues. More like a singing type of vibe, nothing like a production show or anything. Then we saw The Gift, which was okay. Of course, you don't understand the whole story behind it, but it was interesting, good singing. And then after that, the third show that we saw was We Will Rock You, which literally was my favorite show that I've seen on a Royal Caribbean ship so far as a production show. I absolutely loved it. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's all about Queen and, the whole, the battle of like trying to get back to real music. It was a really good show, and my wife absolutely loved it. Like goosebumps good, Doug. I'm telling you, it was really, really good. Yeah,
no, it's one of my top 3 at sea, and I saw it when the ship.
Really?
Yeah, when the ship came out 10 years ago out of Jersey. I took the ship, and I was like, I was just blown away because I've never been a show person. I can't sit still. I have really bad ADD, and I just it was the only show up until that point of my cruising career or life, whatever you want to call it, where I actually sat through the entire show without saying, I want to get out of here. Yeah, it was amazing. That show is just spot on. You're exactly right, though.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a show that good in my life, on land or at sea. And And I've seen Grease on Harmony, and I didn't think Grease compared to We Will Rock You. It was great.
So how about outside of 270 in the main theater? Any like comedy shows around the ship, or any kind of musicians that may have grabbed your ear?
We tried, and it's sort of funny because like there was a couple times we're like, hey, we're gonna go out and watch this, or we're gonna go do this, and like literally we said, hey, we're mental alarms for 10 o'clock, and we would not wake up till like 1 a.m. And I'm like, oh my god, well, cut the lights back off and go back to sleep type thing. So we never got to see the house band. I think it was called Funk You, or it was a funk band in the house. Funk It Up or something like that, maybe. Mm-hmm. And then there was we did silent disco. That was great. And it was just cool to see like the young teenagers that were involved in that. And there was a group of teenagers on the ship that were just so famous because they went to all the events and they participated, mm-hmm. but they were like the coolest kids that you could ever see, and they just really enjoyed themselves. And a lot of people were just saying how great they were and well behaved. And then we did a couple of trivias, like the I don't know if have you heard of the Tribon trivia?
Mm-mm.
Okay, because we're horrible at trivia typically, even though we think in our minds that we're good. But we got to we did a regular trivia, and then they did a Tribon trivia afterwards, where they just do like a 3-word association, and you just guess what they're talking about. And we were actually really good at. We only missed 2 of those, so nice. We're like, all right, this is the type of trivia we need to do from now on.
Yeah, that ship, the music hall venue is really great too. Like, it's just the way it's set up, and where the band is, kind of back towards the doors when you're coming in there, and 2 stories, and right there next to the casino. It's just a great location. Absolutely. And a great venue. Speaking of, like, I guess we'll call it entertainment, did you go to the casino at all? And I'm curious how the smoke situation was in and around it.
Yeah, I actually did some, and I didn't do terrible, but like usually I just get my doors blown off as soon as I walk in. This time I actually sat in, and it actually entertained. I didn't win any money, but mm-hmm. I lost some money, but it was very entertaining. And I asked my wife if she could tell if there was smoke in there, and she said no. Okay. I did the same thing. There was a couple of times where I went down late at night, also to gamble a little bit because I couldn't sleep or something. And mm-hmm. I really couldn't tell if there was smoke. And I even smelled my clothes when I got back to my room just to see, and I really couldn't tell if there was smoke on my clothes. So apparently it must have good ventilation.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to say. The spouse might say, "Where have you been?" And sometimes the smoke is so thick you can't say you weren't at the casino because it's just the smoke will give it away. 100% there. Sea days, as far as crowds and congestion around the ship, what'd you think?
It was good. I mean, the first day was day 2. As we're getting into the Gulf of Alaska and trying to head up towards the Southeast Alaska, the seas were exceptionally rough to the point of having the bags out at the stairwell. So we were really concerned. This was possibly going to be my last cruise if my wife couldn't get her seasickness under control. Mm-hmm. So this time before we left, we actually had a prescription for this. I think it's called scopolamine.
Okay.
I think it's called scopolamine. And she put that on her the day of the cruise or whatever, and she absolutely didn't have any issues the entire cruise. So that's going to be our fix from here on out. No issues at all. And I'm talking the seas on that day were so ridiculous. Everybody was complaining about how rough the seas were. So everybody obviously was mostly inside the ship that day, and I really didn't notice any issues at all. I moved freely about the ship. Funny enough, I have mobility issues for this cruise because I have a bad hip, and I literally got off the ship and got hip surgery 2 days later.
Oh, wow.
So my hip got replaced on Monday after I got off the ship. So, this was really a test of like how this was going to work out. Cause I thought, even in my mind, I said, hey, I still want to go. I still want to see it. But if I just have to sit in my room or hang out in the balcony, I'm just going to do it. And you know what? I didn't have to do that. I actually could walk around pretty decent. I had to use a cane because I was in a little bit of pain, but mm-hmm. either way, it was no issue getting from end to end on this ship. Like, this is a great class of ship, period, in my opinion.
How's your recovery?
I'm doing okay now. Like, my leg is still sore, but I'm getting a lot of movement back,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm my one leg is slightly pigeon-toed, so I'm making sure I'm keeping up with my physical therapy so I can make sure I get that all straightened out. But other than that, man, it already feels a lot better, and I'm still using a walker to get around the house, but pretty soon I would probably be able to just swap over to a cane for a little while and then be good.
Awesome. That's good to hear. So you leave Seattle. Your first port of call was Juneau. What did you do there? And give us a highlight.
So in Juneau, as I mentioned with my little mobility issues, I was like, I sort of wanted to make sure that we're sort of independent, so I'm not slowing anybody down or, causing any issues. So, and I can move on my own time. So if I'm hurting and I'm miserable, I want to make sure I can get back to the ship. So what we did was, we rented a Turo, and it wasn't very expensive. It was like $135. We get the Turo, and the first thing we do is head down to Casey's Crab Shack, absolutely packed. So we headed back to, I want to say was it the brewing company or whatever that's called?
Yeah, like Alaskan Brewing, maybe?
Yeah, we went there, ate some crab legs. You had to do it. It's very expensive, but it was well worth it, just to say that you were able to do that on your birthday in Alaska.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I was actually born in Alaska, so this whole trip is sort of crazy for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my dad was military, so I was actually born in Alaska. So then we did that whole thing and had the crabs and some beers and headed off to Mendenhall Glacier. It didn't take that long to get there, maybe 20 minutes or so, I think. Got to the glacier. Luckily there was parking, so we just parked and actually hiked it all the way to Nugget Falls with my bad hip and a cane. Grabbed some pictures. It was beautiful. Got pictures of the glacier, and then we came back and saw like the salmon in that little stream next to the parking lot. Walked around a little bit on that little pathway they have there, and then headed back, grabbed some souvenirs and a beer at the Red Dog Saloon. Yeah, I grabbed a beer there and listened to they had like a country musician there. We listened to it for a little bit, and then we headed back to the ship.
Nice. Sounds like a nice, relaxing day, and glad you made it on that hike with that hip. So you leave Juneau and you go to Skagway. How was your day there?
Skagway was pretty cool. Like, beautiful. I mean, mind blowing, like just beautiful. But pretty much the same thing. We got another Turo, and it was funny enough because it was parked on the other. Well, really, I think that's the only parking lot, but it's parked on the other side where the Norwegian ships and the other. I think it was another Royal ship was parked or docked at, and went over there and got that Turo, and we drove into town, stopped and got the elephant ear, of course, because we heard they were delicious. And then we drove that Turo all the way into the Yukon to Emerald Lake. Have you been there?
I never have.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Yeah. And it's a really, really great drive. But when we got there, it was like super cloudy and rainy. So like initially getting over those mountain passes in the clouds was like really tough. I was actually contemplating turning around and heading back to Skagway. But then we finally broke through and it was actually, started clearing up. A beautiful drive. It takes a long, I think it's about if you drove it straight without getting out of your car, I think it's almost an hour and a half, 2 hour drive out there.
Okay.
So we drove out there and we stopped at Carcross in the Yukon, ate there at the bistro. It was pretty decent. And then we stopped at the Carcross Desert. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's just like the world's smallest quote unquote desert. And that was real cool. Got some pictures. And then we drove to Emerald Lake. My wife actually got to see a bear. I didn't. It was just, for some reason, I was driving, so I was actually paying attention to the road. But by the time I got to turn around, it had scurried off in the woods. But after that, the one incident that we had in Carcross was we were sitting there looking to look at the menu, I think, for this restaurant. And he's like, this guy walks up, he says, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?" And blah, blah, blah. And we're like, nah. He's like, "Oh, I'll take a picture of you in front of the restaurant." So he takes a picture. Then he starts walking off my phone. "Hey, let me get your picture over here." And he's like doing that, trying to gain some distance between us. I had to go up and snatch my phone out this guy's hand because I thought he was trying to take off with it. Whoa. With a cane and a bad hip. I had to do that. So then we were just laughing at ourselves. We're like, we know better to give people our phones. But you're in Canada and you're like, you can let your guard down. No, you still have to remain vigilant no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Things can happen.
Certainly. With Emerald Lake. So the only thing I've ever done in Skagway, the couple of times I've been there, is I've taken the White Pass both times, and which was really cool, a really cool experience. But was Emerald Lake? Is it just like is it like maybe the color like the Lake Emerald green?
Yeah, it's like when the sun shines off of it, it's really like almost like an emerald green color.
Gotcha.
And which is funny because it seems like almost every body of water that you pass through getting up to Carcross looks the same as that.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be like, I think on certain days it just really, really stands out at Emerald Lake. But yeah, I wouldn't break my neck to go out there because I think it looks like a lot of the other body of waters on the average day.
Mm-hmm. You did the glacier the next day. I'm curious, in your day in Glacier Bay, did you do the North Star to the top to catch do they still do that on there?
They do, and we had it scheduled for the day 2, but with the rocky seas, it was a no-go. I don't know why I scheduled. I just sort of wanted to test the waters with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? See if that was something she was willing to do. And they canceled it and they just refunded us. However, when we got into Endicott Arm and she saw that thing hanging over the ship, she's like, I'm glad it got canceled because there's no way in hell I would have did that. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's one hydraulic line from being a nightmare, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay. And I can't fuss about that. I'm like, yeah, it's totally reasonable. So yeah, we did see it when we were actually getting through the fjord, that we could see it hanging over and everything. But yeah, and some people in the Facebook group posted some pictures of it, and there were some really cool pictures.
How was the day in the glacier? Like, does the ship go up and do some 360s or?
Yeah, I want to say it was like it was an off degree number, like 270 or 2. You know what I mean? It wasn't like 2 full circles, but it was more than one. Right. Yeah, so it had to have been like, I think he said like 390 or something. I think it was like a full circle and then some, and then he left out. Mm-hmm. However, it was just fabulous. And that day, Juneau, Skagway, raining both places or drizzling at the very least, never a clear moment. When we got into that area, it was absolutely clear. So we were like, man, this is mind blowing how beautiful it was. And yeah, it was just a great day. As soon as we started turning around and get out of that area, out of the fjord, we went to the show in 270 again. And I think it's called Father's Knows Best, where they ask kids questions about their dad and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So the crew member was like, hey, when he put the kids off to the side, because they had to face a different direction, so they couldn't see what their parents were saying, he put them off to a different side, and he told them, hey, just look out there, because around this time, whales start jumping in the water. And we literally thought he was joking. And so we're sitting there, and the whole show happens, and he was like, he reiterated it. He goes, yeah, around this time, I don't know why, but the whales always come up and start jumping in our wakes, blah, blah, blah. And so as soon as the show is over, I was standing up, and I just look out the back 270 window, and there was a humpback whale that jumped a full body breach out of the water about 150 yards off the back of the ship. Wow. And you could just hear the gasp in the room. Like, everybody's like, and then the entire venue started running towards those back windows. And this whale just jumped like 4 breaches out of the water, across the wake in the water. And he's like, I told you. And so we're like, man, we really thought this guy was joking, but he's dead serious. And so then after that, the wife and I just went and grabbed our binoculars and went up to deck, 15 out the aft, and just sat there and watched tons of whales, puffing and breaching. It was really cool.
Yeah, I'm sure the person who caught that on camera, it was probably accidental too, because it never happens when you want it to, right? Like, you're like, jump, and your finger is on the shutter, nothing happens. But then the moment you take it off, it's just it starts breaching or whatnot. It's the same thing with the dolphins down here in Florida. So after your day there in Glacier Bay, was it the last stop in Victoria?
Yeah. We actually stopped in Victoria. Again, mobility issues. So I get off the ship. And I thought, hey, I need to get downtown, so we had a whale excursion scheduled. So I happened to go towards the taxis, but I see the rickshaw standing there, and we had some time to burn. So I say, hey, how much to get downtown? It would be a rickshaw, and you just give me a little tour. And he told me how much. I think it was like $70 American or whatever. So I said, yeah, sure, we'll do it. So this poor fella throws us in the back of the rickshaw and he runs us up there. But it was really cool. He took us to some real historical neighborhoods of that area, and then the Parliament, and what's that big hotel down there called?
Yeah,
where they do high tea.
It's like the Fairmont. It's I forgot the name of it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I forgot the name of it too. Yeah. So we did that, and then he dropped us off where all the well excursions leave out of, and where we were actually doing our well excursion had a meetup point right down the street. So we walked a little further, and we used a company called Springtide, and they just took us out in the boat. Now, picking well excursions at Victoria, I know Juneau is the place to watch it, but like in Victoria, the prices are like so much better. I was like, how can you refuse it? And that way, if I don't see anything, I'm not going to be upset. I didn't lose a whole hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
So sure enough, we get out there and we're just burning way out there. I'm like, man, this is far. I think they go all the way out to what's that area called, like San Lucas, Washington, or that type of area.
San Juan Islands, maybe.
Is that the name? Oh, there you go. I'm sorry, San Juan Islands. Yeah. So we burn all the way out there, and sure enough, there's a pot of orcas there, and we sat there like 30 minutes maybe watching.
That's
these
amazing.
guys. It was just amazing. Some poor gentleman dropped his phone right in the water.
Oh.
It hit the deck and slid off.
Oh,
And,
nightmare.
Yeah, terrible. But other than that, what's that?
I was going to say, those rickshaws are motorized, right?
No way.
Yeah, there's batteries. Those guys have the a little button on there where they're like kind of like the wheelbarrow handle they hold on to. There's a button on there because I did a tour with some locals it was in June when I went to Alaska, and we stopped off in Victoria, and the guy's neighbor owns the company of these rickshaw drivers, and he only told me this because there was a skinny little guy hauling a pretty big load in the back, and I'm like, how is this guy doing this? And the guy's like, who I was with, he's like, yeah, this is not. They have batteries on them, so they're like they're assisted. It's not just all them pulling these people around. It's pretty funny.
Muscle power doing it.
Yeah, but it's a battery, so it's super quiet.
Oh, that's so funny because, it's smart not to tell us because obviously I'm like, okay, this dude had to lug me around. Now I'm really going to tip him out.
Right. Yeah. So let's see, you wrap up your day in Victoria there. You get back to Seattle. How was the debark process?
Debark process was, it looks worse than it is. So like, whereas, when you get off at Miami or Galveston, everything just looks organized and ready to go. In Seattle, it actually does look pretty hectic and horrible. And so, like, don't let that get you down because it does move pretty quickly. Once you grab your bags, you'll just start getting this long line, and they don't do the facial recognition. However, all they're doing is looking at your picture. It's not like they're scanning in your every passport. They're just looking to see if you're holding the passport of that individual, and maybe they just do some spot checks. So It moves relatively quickly. Funny enough, I was wearing my military issue backpack because it has a lot, carrying capacity, and so I didn't realize this, but like when I got up there, the bellhop was like, "Oh, you want to take your luggage?" And I was like, "Sure," blah blah blah. And so he sort of moves us like in a certain line that moves quick or whatever, and he took me all the way out there, and he put me in the front of the bus line. And my wife was like, yeah, he's probably doing that because he sees you got that veteran flag on your bag and you got a cane. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I just thought this was the way it goes. So I don't know if that line moves, or not the line, but like when you get to that Uber line, the shuttle that takes you out to the Uber island there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that moves just as quickly because they really did prioritize me and put me in the front line because I look disabled, which I am, but...
Any first-time tips to offer someone considering either a trip to Southeast Alaska or sailing Anthem of the Seas?
I would suggest the one thing is don't be afraid to use public transportation in Seattle. I use buses and trains, and they're not scary. They're clean. It's fine. And it's not only is it a money saver, but it's just a better way to see the city. And then I didn't go to the Space Needle. I had no reason to because, we've been in the stratosphere. But I did go to Columbia Tower. That's a good experience, too. A lot of people just go to the Space Needle only. but the Columbia Tower is a great place, and it's actually the tallest building in Seattle, so sort of makes sense to go there. But yeah, really just don't think that Alaska tours or Alaska cruises are just for outdoorsy type people, because it isn't. You know, you could be either way or both. But no matter what, you're going to enjoy yourself. It was absolutely me and my wife's favorite cruise. Loved it, hands down. And we are, like already said, we're going to do that again. So
yeah,
don't hesitate to go. It's worth every penny of it. I loved it.
Yeah, Seattle has their public transportation to a science, which I like. We took it. We arrived at night. Flew from Jacksonville to Seattle, and it was like $3 a person, I think, to get downtown. And at first I was like, do we really want to ride public transportation? It's going to be sketchy at nighttime. But it was like you walk to the parking garage and you board it. It's well lit, and you go to where you're going, you get off and do it. And I mean, obviously you got to be careful wherever you go in this world. But for Uber wanted $133 to our hotel downtown Seattle. And it was $6 for two of us one way to the hotel. I'm like, we're taking this.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much better. Yeah, I will always use that if I have that option.
Yeah, for sure. Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for you?
I can honestly say I think it was like seeing the wildlife, and I didn't see any eagles, which is weird. You know, like most people, that's the only thing they see when they go. But it was just great. I got to see harbor porpoises, harbor seal, or I guess they were harbor seals because they're seals in the harbor, but that may not be the correct term. Humpback whales, orcas, like that is a lot of things to see, along with just great entertainment. And you couple that with fine food, fantastic service. Room attendant was amazing. I just go on and on. It was just really a good time. No complaints at all. So the highlight would obviously be the wildlife, but just the beauty of Alaska really tops it all too.
You mentioned that you paid around $4,000 or so for this sailing. So was the value there for the price you paid?
Beyond, like, yeah, it was beyond that. I mean, I would have paid way more to do it, but don't tell them that. But I enjoyed myself thoroughly, and yeah, absolutely would do that again.
Did you bring your own binoculars, or did the ship provide those?
I did. We did bring our own binoculars. However, we didn't bring blankets, and all I did was ask my room attendant. I said, "Hey, can we get a couple of throw blankets?" And they were there moments later.
Nice.
She just came and sat them in the room for us. So I wouldn't pack blankets if,
right. Yeah.
A lot of people do that. They pack their own blankets and then hang out in their balconies. It's not, you can just have your room attendant bring it to you.
Exactly. Well, in closing here, your final thoughts of Anthem of the Seas.
Great ship. Absolutely love Quantum Class. We'll do another one once I find a sailing that's to my liking. And then, yeah, great entertainment. Like, I would actually do that ship again in the near future because I actually liked it that much. So loved it.
Awesome. We've been talking with Michael about his 7-night cruise on Anthem of the Seas. Happy belated birthday, my friend, and best of luck on your road to recovery.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And let me come on and talk to some cruise and travel community royalty. Man, I really appreciate what you do.
Awesome, and I appreciate that.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,